But it's all the niggling things. It's the way that depression occurs. It's the way that all these other things happen, that people get eaten away over time, and all the interactions they have with others and the interactions they have with the world are bringing them down slowly. Now, that's interstitial moisture management. When you're dealing with all the stuff that's in the middle of the home, yeah, on the outside, on the surface, it's totally fine. We put a facade on, we can do stuff, but deep down, the humans are hurting. Or deep down, the house is hurting.
Hello and welcome to the Building Sociology Potty, where we talk about better buildings to live and breathe in. My name is Jess Kismet and I'm your host. Today, my guest is Alex Slater. Alex is a registered architect and certified passive house designer based in Melbourne, Australia. Through his practice, Building Physics Australia, he merges architectural insight with building science to create healthier, energy-efficient buildings. In this episode, we are going to explore how Alex navigates the grey areas of building projects, balancing design integrity with performance. We're going to discuss his approach to building physics, the importance of upfront thinking in design, and how tools like the Passive House Planning Package, otherwise known as PHPP, play a role in his work. Hey, Alex.
G'day, Jess. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. It's great to chat. So give us a little bit of a rundown, who you are, how you got to where you are today, and when the moment that you just decided this is what you wanted to be doing. What was that moment like?
Cool. Well, I'm not an Olympic runner, that's for sure. So I'll give you another rundown. So I started off in Canberra, brought up in Canberra, and I was always interested in buildings. And from a very early age, I remembered actually drawing a sketch of an underground home and using the systems to work out how they all worked together, probably about the age of 4 or 5, I'd say, something like that. And from then on, just this interest in how the building environment works. And for me, it was always more than just design. There's always something a little bit further that has to connect back to the world and back to the environment that we live in, and how we as humans can work with that environment, but also how we can work with our own environments to make sure that we're having the best outcomes or balanced outcomes based on what's outside and what's inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving from Canberra, I went to Melbourne afterwards. Initially, I studied architecture in Canberra for the undergrad, did the postgrad in Melbourne, and continued my journey in Melbourne. Worked under Passive House Builder and also a few architects, both in Canberra and Melbourne, and ended up merging the Canberra experience into the company that exists today with Jeff. So we're both directors, and that has become more than an architecture firm. So it's become an architecture firm, registered architecture firm, but also dives into building physics to make sure that we provide the best that we can based on what we know about the constraints and context of the project.
So hang on, Jeff is your co-director of Building Physics Australia?
Yeah. Well, it's the same company. It's just a business name, really. So we've got a company, we've got a P2A Ltd, and we've got multiple business names.
Yeah, right. I did not know that.
Yeah.
What else do you do?
Architecture, building physics.
But it's all like the same work, but under multiple different names. Arms.
Yeah. And then in the future, I'm looking at holistic architecture. So how health and architecture work together. So that'll come in the future. That's a bit of a plug.
Sounds very interesting. So you've got Building Physics Australia. What else have you got?
SharedSpace architecture.
Okay.
Which is the shared space. It started off as SharedSpace because we love sharing things.
Yeah. And is that it's a practicing architecture firm? So you work in commercial, residential, everything?
Have done. Yeah. Lots of small projects.
Okay. And Building Physics Australia is the building performance side of that.
Yeah. And I think what's happened with that, and particularly the shared space architecture showing me this, is that we work in the grey area in architecture as well. So there's jobs that not a lot of architects want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, warehouse conversions or little extensions or bits and pieces, patios, just making sure the compliance works. So one of our strengths is working with the grey area in terms of compliance.
Mm-hmm.
And so making sure that we're able to satisfy the requirements of the project so that it's realised.
Mm-hmm.
And if we get designs that are unbuildable, we'll work through them to make sure the intent's there. So that's the way how shared space works.
So a lot of verification assessments, a lot of verification, the compliance.
Yeah, and still architectural drawings.
Alternative solutions. Pardon?
And still architectural drawings. So we still need to draw architecturally to come up with a solution. It's just working through all the parameters to make sure that solution's fine.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go. I learned something about you today. So, I mean, you describe yourself as an architect and a building physicist. And you've just described. My next question is about how that dual identity looks in your day-to-day work. So how do you work across the two companies? Do you work primarily in one or?
No, it's the one company. It's got two business names.
Business.
Yeah. So it's like multiple email addresses and
Yeah.
things. Yeah, it's a bit of
So
fun.
you work across both every day and they collaborate together and
Yeah, some days I don't work at all.
yeah. Well, such is the life of a business owner.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of
Yeah,
fun.
right.
So
Yeah.
take on a lot of passive house stuff at the moment. There's quite a number of passive house things, and I've also got Katie who's doing a lot of drawing from an architectural perspective. So drafting, drawing, design. So they both need guidance, as in both companies need some kind of leadership, which is great, as all do, and it's bridging my time where I need to bridge it.
Cool. Well, go. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about the grey area. On your website, it says working with grey matter in the grey areas of your building project. Could you elaborate a little bit more? Have you got some examples of what you mean by that?
Yeah. Okay, so typically nerds, so that's the grey matter.
Yes.
It's like ding, there's all the grey stuff, and the grey area is the stuff that people don't necessarily see straight away, and so working in between, I think it's good. A lot of modern stuff is really on or off, and it's all the numbers in between. It's the numbers between 0 and 1 that we love to work with. So it's not a yes, it's a no. It's a what can you do in the middle space.
So do you get a lot of like really challenging stuff that other people can't work through?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I had an example. We've done some studies on for a monastery, and that was earth building and how earth building can comply and what's required, and how moisture moves through earth buildings, and
like a rammed earth building, or like an
rammed
earth ship, or
stone, earthenware.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, rammed earth. Yeah.
Interesting. And that was
there's a particular thickness you need.
And do you use the PHP?
It's in a hotter climate, so it was a bit easier.
That was what I was going to say. Was it in Melbourne?
No, warmer climate, so could deal with a bit easier.
A bit easier in terms of insulation and everything. Oh, a monastery, huh? Fascinating.
So whatever walks in is kind of fun. You're like, oh yeah, let's have a look at it.
Yeah.
What works here, what works there, and so I think that's true physics.
Yeah. So solving those sorts of problems.
I'm often saying that the only passive house part of the PHPP is the verification sheet. Every other sheet is physics. Yeah. Based on estimates and climate and performance. So yeah, that's the only part which is passive house, is the verification sheet.
You're also a NatHERS assessor. Do you still do NatHERS assessments?
Yeah.
Let's chat about the difference between the two. All right. It's
People
a common...
love this.
I know.
People love to see the differences. It's like, let's
dive
do
in.
It.
Let's dive straight in. What does Alex Slater determine are the differences between NatHERS, which is the National House Energy Rating Scheme, which is what Australia uses for our star rating energy efficiency compliance against the building code, and the passive house planning package?
Yeah, so it really does come down to the type of project you're doing. So you've got NatHERS, which only does residential buildings, typically, and you've got passive house, which does all buildings. But then there are other verification methods for buildings that aren't residential buildings in the code, or the National Construction Code. They're both building physics tools. They both work on assumptions. One's more open source than another. So passive house has got, you can look at all the data and the equations within the PHPP and see what's going on. When NatHERS is a bit closed. Fundamental difference would be the way that each deal with cooling, so cooling loads, and also the way they measure the thermal performance of a building. NatHERS looks at zones, so lots of separate zones, because it's not necessarily targeting air tightness, even though there's functions there to show air tightness. It's looking at the zones and the heat movement between them. And passive house is looking at the whole thermal envelope.
Yes.
To say, this is one big zone, you're just building a balloon.
Do you think that that's a weakness or a strength?
It depends what you're dealing with. I like to honour the value system that the client brings to the project. So if the client believes that an earth building with thermal mass recharging with a greenhouse to the north is going to provide them more comfort than a completely airtight building, then who am I to say that an airtight building is going to be more comfortable for them? So even if we can measure that an airtight building is more comfortable, psychologically, the earth building with the greenhouse on the northern side is going to be more comfortable for that client, because that's their value system.
That is a very, very good point. It's not one size fits all, is it?
Is it?
No.
Some people have bigger feet than others.
They each have their own merits, and depending on what you want out of your project, you can benefit from all sorts of different approaches.
But you know the feeling, right? If you're really driven by something, you're really driven by something to go and do something. You want to run 100 meters in 10 seconds or whatever, and you're really driven to do it. And then someone just goes and says, "Oh no, you can't do it that way. That's the wrong way to do it. You've got to change the way you walk first." Then that's gonna you're really going to be challenged by that as a client.
Yeah. Yes,
Whereas if you can
definitely.
work with, okay, now I understand how the way your body works. Let's just tweak a few things. It's a very different approach because you feel like you're supported, not fighting. And so that's why anytime that someone comes in with a value system that they have, I'm looking for ways to support that value system in the way they rate their home for their own comfort.
And that is extremely important.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
To a human.
Absolutely. Because it's not necessarily just physical comfort, it's psychological comfort.
100%.
Knowing that you've made a decision on something and it's been supported is way more comfortable than making a decision and saying it's the wrong decision.
Yeah. Despite what I may think about your decision.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I've been in the office with builders and clients talking about architects and designs, and a particular builder, they receive a plan and the plan was there, the client was there, and it was about, no, can't do that, can't do this, can't do this. And that's just all negative language. And what that did was it meant that the client had to not trust one party because they're seeing there's differences of opinion. Whereas if you go in and saying, yeah, that's cool, can we adjust this? Can we make it a little bit different here? That's a very different way of approaching the same problem. And it just changes the whole energy around it.
It does. It changes the whole conversation.
It does, because they're opportunistic.
Yeah.
It's not saying, oh, we're the only, Passive House is the only way to do something because it's the superior standard. Well, hang on. The only part of the Passive House play package that's Passive House is the verification sheet. And you tell me otherwise.
I have to think about it.
Yeah. But I think there's elements of that I carry on with me with all these different tools. So going back to the main differences, I would say it's the way that's measured, zones versus multiple zones versus one big zone, and the way that cooling load is dealt with.
Could you elaborate on the cooling load bit?
Yeah, so cooling loads, Australian metrics are pretty good because we've experienced it. Passive House, from a cooling load perspective, is probably okay for a smaller window area. But once you start to get larger window areas, I don't believe it meets the cooling load that it needs to meet to make it comfortable in summer.
You're talking about NatHERS or Passive House here?
Passive House.
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of the cooling load with Passive House, I believe it needs to be a bit more than what it's allowing for once you have a larger window area.
Okay. So you think the Passive House misses the mark a little bit there if you've got large windows?
Yeah.
You might be right, which is why we have overheating issues in Passive House in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Because the designers and architects aren't necessarily looking at a smaller or optimized window area, because they get given a problem by a client saying, no, I want to see floor to ceiling windows. And these floor to ceiling windows, they've got to see this view of the big gum tree, which I can't see unless I stand at the window anyway, but that's okay. But I want floor to ceiling windows. So you end up with these 40%, 50% floor area in window area, which just makes the oven.
Yeah.
And it's balancing that. It's balancing that with the load that you need. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can put a better cooling system or bigger cooling system, but you don't have to put a larger cooling system when you deal with the Passive House package. So.
And the NatHERS cooling load issue or cooling demand? A cooling load, sorry?
Well, I believe that that's okay.
Okay.
Because it's dealing on a zone basis.
True.
Because really, that's where heat really affects it. So if you've got a smaller volume, your heat is affected. The volume is affected more by heat if it's smaller. So you're going to understand how much overheating that particular zone has.
Much easier to...
Yeah. Whereas Passive House is the whole thermal envelope. And so one particular room, if it's north facing and gets a lot of heat and light, might be completely hot compared to a southern room. But in Passive House, it's fine because the whole house isn't over 27 degrees based on the thermal envelope area versus the volume.
So would you, when you're modeling your Passive House projects, do you keep your cooling demand? Do you aim for lower than the 15 kilowatt hours per square meter or whatever it is? Do you aim for 10 or 11, or do you still is that a discussion with the client about where that might end up?
That's different. It's about the sizing of the system.
I say, okay.
So you got your demand, which is we use this much energy per square meter per year for cooling. But how fast can that energy be injected into the thermal envelope? how fast can it be injected into the indoor space, the volume of air? And I think that's the key. If you've got large windows, you want to be able to inject cool in really quickly.
Using mechanical means.
Yeah.
So
I also I've worked out a way to do a free running mode in Passive House. So I can
What do you
compare
mean?
free running mode in free running. That might be a blooper. Or you can keep it if it's funny. But yeah,
I'm keeping
free
that.
running mode in Passive House and NatHERS. Hero software does the free running mode anyway. And I've worked out a way to pull out the data, and I'll explain free running mode soon, but to pull out the data from the Passive House package to end up with an equivalent free running mode. So free running mode is about how many hours or percentage of time during the year that the building is outside the thermostat settings. Of, say, for Passive House, that'd be 20 to 25 degrees. In NCC 2022, I think it's also 20 to 25 in most cases. In previous NCCs, it's been 17 to 27, perhaps, in some climate zones. So it's seen how many hours are outside of the thermostat settings. That's free running mode.
Okay. And you figured out a way
if there was no air conditioning or heating, if there's no mechanical heating or cooling. Yeah, figure out a way to pull that out.
Okay. So let's just step back for a second. I'm trying to extrapolate Alex's brain here. What you said about the cooling, the mechanical cooling, does that mean that you would oversize your air conditioner in a certified passive house by a small amount in order to inject that cool thing there quickly?
Compared to what the PHPP says, yes.
So
but
you
compared
go like
to what Australian calculations are, probably it's half. So still less cooling than a standard blow through home.
Yep. Blow through home meaning your standard Australian home.
Yeah, without any air tightness. The blow away. It's like the three little pigs, right? You got the straws, the sticks, and the brick.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting one. Just a sidetrack.
Yeah,
the hardest way to build a passive house is with timber frame and insulation. Yet that's the way that we love to do it.
We do.
But it's the hardest way because it's not one solid material.
So you're saying that a certified passive house is easier with one solid wall structure?
Yeah, 100% is like concrete or CLT or.
Well, we don't take into account the cladding. If it's a lightweight, we're only taking into account the timber and the insulation.
I know, but it's still the hardest way to build it. Like air tightness membranes and da.
Okay. Yeah.
That was a sidetrack. Love tangents.
Little nugget of gold there.
Talking about the three pigs and the sticks, that just had to happen.
Absolutely. So clients who might not be familiar, I guess anyone who is going to go to Alex Slater is familiar with Passive House Planning Package. They're already familiar with PHPP because that is your specialty, and that was probably going to be why people are going to come to you. But how do you communicate the value of the PHPP and its outputs to your clients?
I've generated the RePHorter.
You have.
Which pulls things out.
Very clever.
So it pulls things out visually.
Yeah, graphs.
Most people are visual data analysts. I wouldn't say learners, but most people can understand a graph better than they can read a paragraph telling them the same thing. So it's pulling out that data. I think the most popular one is the window placement one.
Yes.
Which tells you where the window area is and where the shading is.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen
plenty of examples on that on the website as well. So
yeah, okay. Well, I'll put a link to Alex's Passive House RePHorter in the show notes. I recommend you go and have a look. It's pretty impressive. The PHPP, if you have not seen the Passive House Planning Package, it is, I don't know how many tabs, like 20, 30 tabs of numbers, and it's a bit overwhelming when you look at it. Alex has whipped up an amazing Excel spreadsheet that extrapolates the data from the PHPP and makes it pretty. So I recommend you go and have a look at his example on his website. Link is in the show notes.
Cool.
It's pretty cool.
And remember that the only passive house part of the PHPP is the verification sheet.
Got it. That might that might have to be the title of this episode.
That's funny.
Got to get that message home. How have you ever had a time where you had to advocate for Passive House in a room of people who just don't get it?
Yeah, a lot of that's just conversational for me. I've heard a number of times that I've got a bit of a skill for simplifying stuff.
Yeah, I have a feeling you'd find that pretty easy.
So
and not frustrating. You wouldn't get like some of us sort of, well, I mean, I don't, but there's an overarching frustration that people just don't get. They just don't get it, and you don't know what you don't know, and blah, blah, blah. But I think that you enjoy those sorts of conversations.
Yeah, I do, because I honor my own value system and I honor
Yeah.
their value system. And I think that's really key in the conversation. If I'm not
Yeah.
honoring the person's value system, then there's no way I'm going to be able to demonstrate something.
Yep. And how do you find out what that is? Do you have a set of questions?
Conversation.
Yeah. Do
You
you
can
have
tell. I
yeah.
kind of tell.
Yeah.
I kind of tell when people are out there to sell me stuff.
So it's like a psychological assessment.
Yeah. So if it's connecting with them and really understanding where they're coming from, and knowing that if I get a client that wants an extension on a home, for example, I'm really asking them where that information's coming from. So why do they actually need an extension? What's the true outcome? Well, the extension's always the product. The passive house is always the product of the true outcome. And so understanding what a person's true outcome is, their desire, their next step, allows me to connect with them and know where their values stand. And if it has to be passive house because it's completely focused on the label and passive house, then I don't change that. But in terms of the question, if I'm in a room of people that don't understand passive house or just doubters or whatever, I ask them where they're coming from. And I've been able to use the PHPP with earth buildings. I've been able to use the PHPP on standard constructions because it's a really useful building physics tool, and you can still explain their outcomes in a physics way without even mentioning the word passive house. So talking about windows and window area, glass types, floor types, insulation types, orientation, comfort, air tightness, balloons, jackets, eskies, refrigerators, and knowing all these things to say, jumpers, the whole lot, and being allowing yourself to connect deeper with a person's understanding of their world means that they're able to understand my world a bit better. And so I really love those. Like, those conversations are great because it allows you to see the kind of people that exist and curious. Like, I'm always curious about what people bring to the table. So that's another cool one. And I'm never saying there's only one tool to do it. That's another cool one. But there's always something different. There's always something in the middle that you can work with.
I like the way you think. What is one misconception that you think architects or builders often have about building science, and how do you gently correct that?
It's all about waterproofing is the misconception.
Okay, go on.
So we're worried and focused about the downpipes and gutters and making sure that everything is tidy. I remember going to an event, and I guess he was a building physicist or builder, and he's talking about building physics and purely talking about downpipes and gutters and saying it's all about the way that water flows off the building. So that's why I think that's a common misconception, is that yes, it's part of it. Yes, it's a very big and obvious part of it, of keeping things dry. Totally, I get that. But I guess you could compare it to something, say, an emergency versus something that slowly grows. And what I'm talking about here is interstitial mold or interstitial moisture, compared to just having the downpour and the leak, which is what happens if, a tree falls across the road. That's an emergency. Or you run into a wall, or you have a car accident or something, whatever. That's an emergency that's right in your face. That's done. We can solve that by understanding how to prevent that. But it's all the niggling things. It's the way that depression occurs. It's the way that all these other things happen, that people get eaten away over time, and all the interactions they have with others and the interactions they have with the world are bringing them down slowly. Now, that's interstitial moisture management. And so preventing key.
I feel like my heart hurts hearing that.
But it is. So it really is. It's an analogy to use when you're dealing with all the stuff that's in the middle of the home. Yeah, on the outside, on the surface, it's totally fine. We put a facade on, we can do stuff. But deep down, the humans are hurting. Or deep down, the house is hurting.
Oh, this is getting too deep for me, Alex. No, I love it. I love it.
And those analogies really work. And that's a really cool way to allow the myths to go, because people feel that. And they get it, and they think, yeah, well, I can prevent rain by wearing a rain jacket, but what kind of inner work do I have to do to prevent all the other stuff? Well, that's the kind of stuff you've got to do with your house.
Yeah. Beautiful way and human way of looking at it. It's not just the science of mold takes 48 hours to germinate, or vapor drive. It's
Yeah.
the slow burn, like depression, like
Yeah.
mold equals depression, depression equals
Yeah.
mold.
Something like that. But we love the stats. We love the numbers. But sometimes the numbers can distract us and take us away from the actual problem.
I'm going to have to ponder this one. It's time for a quick sponsor shout out. Today's episode of the Building Psychology Potty is proudly brought to you by our amazing sponsors, Enduro Builders and Climasure. A huge thank you to these incredible businesses for supporting the podcast and helping us spread the word about better buildings to live and breathe in. Your support makes this podcast possible. Please head over to their websites and follow their social pages. All right.
So building physics and health, that's a new topic, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Building physics and health.
Yeah.
Relating it to health.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
So using health analogies is key.
Yeah. Mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
Financial health. Absolutely. Yeah. How do you balance the performance goals with the creative or aesthetic ambitions of design?
I go back to honoring the design for what it is. And if you go
would you go for those values over performance goals?
No, not necessarily. So I could also say, yes, I would, but it depends on where the client started on their journey.
Yeah.
And it depends of the value system they're bringing to the table. So a client may, for example, go to an architect and the architect has a different value system, but then they come to me for energy rating advice or something like that, or energy advice, whatever we want to call it, that thing. And I might understand that their value system is in conflict with what the design's saying. And so I would go along those lines of, okay, I actually feel that there's something that we can change here. But if I feel that they're really, really, that's their design and they want it, and that's how it's got to be, and they've got to have these northern views, then I'll do my best to meet that. And then what drives it is cost.
So have you ever come across a project where you feel like the client is going in a certain direction that are against their values because they're being convinced to do something by, say, an architect, and then you kind of redirect them?
And the biggest diversion is resale value.
Yeah.
That's the biggest diversion. And I've probably answered the question with that one sentence.
Yeah. But it's conflicting, isn't it?
It is.
It's conflicting.
It creates conflict. It's the same as I mentioned the particular builder when the client came in and said, no. It's good to say no, but if you want to value someone's personality or aesthetic or value system, then it's good to say yes and. I see where you're coming from. Can we tweak this? Or in the case of resale value, I understand it's like you having 3 bedrooms and every bedroom's got an ensuite and every ensuite has a double sink and 6 toilets. It's great. However, is it practical? And I often ask, do you want to clean that many bathrooms?
No. Immediately no.
Exactly. So you're understanding the value system there straight away, right? And then, actually, the kitchen's really, really big. How many times do you cook? Is it worth being 30% of the cost of the house? Oh, you've just shown that in a different light. No, actually, I don't think it is. Well, can we rework that? Can we save some money here? Those windows, they're really, really big, but did you realize that your back fence is only 4 meters away from your window, so you don't really see much anyway? Oh, that's true. Can we reduce it a bit so it's focused on this particular tree? Yes, we can. Well, there's performance.
It sounds like a very heartfelt. Well, I don't know why the word heartfelt is coming to me. It's holistic and it's human. It's very human and it's very individual. And
it's colourful, right? It's still colourful.
Colourful and it's inspiring.
Yeah,
It's giving me all the warm fuzzies right now. Like, really thinking about the person that you are actually helping.
Yeah. And you can
call me
NatHERS
and Passive House.
You know, like the Hue, like HUE, man. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
All of a sudden I'm forgetting about like numbers and I'm just like,
yeah, totally, right? And that's what we've got to do. We've got to be really good at the numbers. We've got to know exactly what we're doing. And I'm great. Like I'm great with Excel. I'm great with the Passive House. I'm great with those systems.
Yeah.
However, ultimately going back and understanding the client and understanding the homeowner and understanding your parties there is going to provide the best solution regardless of what value or metric or standard or whatever they want to go for.
Have you put a team around yourself of consultants and builders and things who are all aligned with this way of thinking?
It's hard because it changes, but I'd love to. It's hard. It's hard because when you're dealing with people's value systems, they're all shapes and sizes. So what I really prefer to do, and I've done in the past, is say, hey, client, great, I understand you. I'm pretty sure this builder will align with you, and I'm the one who connects them, rather than being say everyone's got to align with me. Well, that would be my ego speaking, saying everyone's in my system, and you have to be in my system for me to work with you. No, hang on. What about the what ifs? What about the greys? The greys of the building industry.
And do you find that variation difficult?
Difficult?
Yeah.
No, because you often connect with the right people.
Some people come up with systems and they rely on those systems and predictable outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how they operate. Whereas your approach is sort of quite personalized to each of your clients.
It's still a system.
Okay.
It's still a system, but it's at a higher level than one that's just right in your face. And I say that in the sense of if you go back to first principles, you understand physics more than just using the tool and thinking what the outcome is. So if you put the numbers in, the passive house spits out a number, great. But if you then dive into the Excel sheet and work out why it's spitting out the number, then you're going to have a better idea of what adjustments to make.
That's where the expertise comes in.
Yeah. And so it's still a system. Connecting people with like-minded people is still a system. It's just one step different from saying my value system is yellow and I have to attract builders and clients who are all yellow. I'm saying, no, they can be any color they like, and I'll match the blue to the blue and the yellow to the yellow and the red to the red, etc. Because that usually happens. You usually have a conversation and usually then the next week talk with a builder who aligns with the client.
I know. It's weird how that kind of stuff happens, isn't it?
It's synchronicity, right?
Yeah.
And so it actually does work. And just trusting that it's going to work is a really cool thing.
Very cool. If you could change one thing in how the Australian industry approaches design or compliance, the Australian construction industry, what would that be?
It's actually a really cool opportunity with performance solutions because it allows for professional advice. And that actually means that you can really dive into something properly and address it based on understanding the client and the builder and the surveyor and the engineer and all the things coming together and saying that this is the best solution for this particular project.
So I guess in my experience, performance solutions always seemed like the cheapest, easiest way to get around the building code. They never felt to me to be integrous ways to create, to chase after compliance with the building code.
I guess it's the intent you put to it. It's like saying you can say that here's a good example. You can say that someone's being judgmental of someone else. But if the intent is to actually hurt the person, that's very different from the intent being trying to help the person. And it's the same with the building code. If there's something in the performance solution or something that's about a unique artisan way to do something, because there's no other way to do it because, the architect's gone mad or something, then you can put together something that works for all parties. And Earth Homes is a brilliant example. When I do Earth Home ratings, I'm running NatHERS, I'm running Passive House, I'm running Spes 44, and I'm weighing them off each other and saying with these three tools running in synchronicity, these are the better outcomes or best outcomes for this project, and then signing it off as that.
Could you give the listener a bit of a rundown on what Spes 44 is?
Oh yeah, Spes 44. It comes after Spes 4. Good. Yeah, but further than that, it's a standard where you actually calculate or you can determine your heating and cooling loads and total heating and total heating, cooling energy load. So heating load, cooling load, and energy load. And what it does is it gives you a value to work towards or to have as a limit. So in terms of Passive House, the threshold is 15 kilowatt hours per meter squared per annum. We will get a similar threshold in megajoules per square meter per annum for performance for Spes 44 as part of a performance solution. And that's the limit you have to meet.
What software do you use to get that?
Oh, Passive House. So I get the Passive House package. Passive House planning package. All the other bits that aren't the verification sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah. so I use that and that gives me a value per square meter of megajoules or kilowatt hours. And if that meets Spes 44, it just comes as part of my report. And it'll say, yes, it meets Spes 44 in heating. Yes, it meets it in cooling, or yes, it meets it in both, or either option or variant of that. And that allows me to say, yeah, well, it's meeting the code in this way. And this is an ISO 44, like an internationally recognized tool, ISO 144, I think it's 1044, internationally recognized tool. And it meets our Spes 44. And the code refers to that standard, that ISO standard, as in we recognize internationally recognized tools. So put 2 and 2 together, and you don't need to necessarily do it another way.
I don't really understand Spes 44, but that's okay. Moving on.
Do you want me to explain it again as a blooper?
Well, I mean, is it just like a sheet you fill out?
You
Is it like a
calculate.
form? Like you calculate your heating and cooling
Yeah, and you see if it
demand.
meets it, and then any tool can meet that.
But then your demand, the PHPP calculates heating and cooling demand, and you're talking in kilowatt hours per square meter per annum.
Yeah.
And you're talking about megajoules per square meter per annum.
Yeah.
So how do you convert that?
Energy rating.
So you convert that from the PHPP into megajoules per square meter per annum.
Yeah, and then, it meets it.
Yep. Couldn't you get megajoules out of NatHERS?
Yeah, you can.
So you
can do a NatHERS rating, but because I've done a PHPP,
I see.
then I may as well
rather
use the
than double
PHPP.
handle it, you just do PHPP and then so you would use Passive House on its own if it's going to be certified. You would use NatHERS on its own for a star rating over 7 stars, and you would use Spes 44 in conjunction with PHPP if it doesn't quite meet Passive House requirements, instead of doing a NatHERS assessment as well. But it'll make the code. Okay.
Or
and
elemental
you've got an
provisions.
easy way,
or elemental provisions, or did satisfy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you've got an easy way in one of your magical spreadsheets to convert these numbers and just done.
And I also give them an equivalent star rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Clever man.
Bit of fun. See what you can do next. Yeah.
Is there anything that you believed, Alex, in your early career about buildings or performance or compliance or architecture that you've now completely changed your mind about?
Yeah, I didn't believe buildings need roofs.
What?
That was a joke.
Okay.
That could go in. That's fun. But I love being practical. It's like building stuff. And I did feel that we've always been building too big. Even as a child, I felt things were really big. And that came in through just how I felt in spaces. I also felt that buildings were too arty because of my practical sense. But that's now understanding that in balance, it's really good. And that's the human aspect. Actually, you need something that's beautiful. And so that's come through as, actually, I can change that. I don't need to be rigid and scientific everywhere. And that was a really cool lesson.
That's coming through in everything you're saying, that sort of attitude.
Yeah. So that's a really big thing that has a shift, which is cool. It's not just practical, but I love it. I love art in practical ways. So you can make something look really good without making it expensive. And that's the key. Yeah,
and that can be a part of what gets lost in all of these disciplines in our industry with the architects and engineers and consultants and builders. There doesn't tend to be a lot of crossover. And what you've just talked about is the crossover between the academic and the art.
It's a Venn diagram. That's the grey area in a nutshell.
It is.
So 100% working with the grey matter in the grey area. You got to be on it from a nerdy intellectual point of view to know that the outcome is the grey area.
Yeah. Now there's a quote. All right. What advice would you give to someone, maybe a university student or an early career architect or builder? What advice would you give to them about integrating building science into their work?
Follow your dreams every time. Know what you know is right. Understand your value system and use your value system without necessarily negating someone else's.
It can be very tricky.
It can.
But from a professional standpoint, that's where the value is. From a professional standpoint, is getting that.
And to elaborate on that, I feel that it's not about negating. If I know something that they need to know, I'd rather expand them. I'd rather empower them to see the same information than denying them the opportunity. But I need to work from the language that they're using.
Yeah. And that's important too, is adopting language that the person you are speaking with can understand.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So follow your dreams is the biggest key. And in order to do that, it's about knowing when to say stuff and not negating something. So don't go around saying, no, I can't do this, can't do that, can't do that. Say, well, yeah, you can do that. Can we adjust this?
It's like life advice, Alex. Did you have a mentor early on who influenced? I think you have had some pretty strong mentors in your life, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Yeah. Do tell.
Yes, please.
I like working with numbers of people and I pick up a lot of elements from different mentors. In terms of architecture, Jeff's been really a key mentor with that. Jeff is the other director of the company. And in many ways sees art in practical ways as well. And it's about solutions based and outcome based rather than being an architectural statement. And that's been really key because that's something that's aligned with me as a kid as well. It's about practical stuff. So that's been really, really key. And just, I've had a few, co-students, co-workers, just conversations, and they tend to influence the little thoughts I've had. And mainly it's about smoothing the rough edges, knowing where I am rough or can come across as a bit demanding or something, which is rare, but those occasions,
demanding.
those occasions, and you work through it. It's okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
What am I learning from this? And I think that's the key to mentorship. And students, the students I've taught at Polytechnic, at universities, I'm as much a student as they are, because they're bringing in a different vision, a different set of eyes, a different almost culture. Like being so many years younger, as different perspective of the world. Oh, that's a really cool perspective. What can work with that? Yeah.
Instead of saying no, my way is the right way.
Yeah. Yes, it's been open to mentorship, really, in all aspects.
Love it. Have you ever made any big mistakes on any projects that you still kind of carry around with you and go, I wish I hadn't done that?
There's one in Canberra where we got 3 tenders in, and one builder was like way. And we went with them, but they obviously forgot something in their price. So, because there were all these variations coming in afterwards. So we figured, next time I'm just going to ask them if they've forgotten something, which you do. You have to, but they were adamant that they hadn't. So it's about knowing if they had or not. So that's, and I actually don't carry that stuff at all. So it's not something I carry with me.
That's good.
Because I would be a traumatized wreck or something if I did. But it's about knowing what mistakes you've made and learning from them, and that's a key takeout.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And then let it go somewhere else.
Good. I'm glad that you don't carry that with you. It's probably a bit of a torturous question. What do you still feel really guilty about?
Yeah. And there's so many examples of all the good jobs, and they've really just been blessings. You look at where I look at where I've come from and know what I've learned. That was a big lesson I spoke about with the tender process, but there's all these micro lessons. There's all these lessons through the really good jobs. Yes, there are dull moments in the good jobs. 100% every time there's a dull moment in the good job. I can guarantee you that there is going to be a dull moment in the good job. And that's the kind of stuff you learn from.
Dull moment. What do you mean by dull moment?
Something that's not necessarily in tune, or you've forgotten something, or you've messed something up, and perfection is an illusion anyway, because it's constantly changing. Even after the house or the building is built, it's not to the drawings, because the drawings are a diagram.
Exactly.
And even the PHPP is a perfection illusion as well. It's always an estimate, because there's no human behavior factor in that one.
Even NatHERS actually assumes human behavior, though. NatHERS assumes the star rating energy software assumes when you're going to put a jumper on, and when you're going to, when you're going to open windows, and when you're going to they all have to. They all have to end up with an outcome, because it involves heat gains and clothes and PMV, cooking, oven,
and cooking.
Yeah.
And if people don't cook, there's examples of homes being too cold because the people aren't in there. Well, hello, of course. But so it's always an estimation tool. Nothing's ever perfect. So to strive for perfection is striving for an unattainable goal in my book.
Also very good advice to the young crew. What do your friends and family actually think you do for work, and how close are they to being right?
Oh, they all think different things, and I love it.
I wouldn't, if I had to, it's funny when you sit around with friends, and you all talk about your jobs, but no one has any idea what anyone actually does.
Because it's just a label.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a label.
There's so many nuances.
Yeah, but I'm labelless.
Yeah, we love it.
Totally labelless. Yeah, I love it.
You go in that category.
You can call me an architect, but I might be I might help someone with their health.
Yeah.
And you can call me someone who helps with their health. I might help with their building physics. Or I might ride my bike, and you can call me a cyclist.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. I love being that, they have a bit of mystery. I think mystery is a really, really cool thing, because ultimately mystery comes out as a person's life story, and it's carrying that life story through. That is what I'm doing authentically, and how people connect to that is their perception of my story.
There's so much room in your thought process. There's no rigidity about
your
mind. There's no, it's a very structured mind. It's a very analytical mind, but it's just so open. It's cool. So we've got on our last couple of questions here. If you weren't doing this building science, building physics, architect, art, grey matter in the grey area jig, what path do you think you might have followed instead?
I'm actually following that path now in a way. I'm working with a few people on holistic healing and kinesiology,
Wow.
which is really cool.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. So that's a really cool path. So there's more in that space a bit later.
All right. Watch this space.
Yeah. So that's and I find that is really the passion there is that I understand that people need to know what they need in their life before they start designing a house, because the house is the biggest asset or the biggest expense they'll make. So it's about refining what they need in a home before it's actually designed.
So what exactly is kinesiology?
Kinesiology works with meridians and whole body systems to look at healing from a alternative perspective.
Mhm.
But really, the really exciting one is I'm working with Paul, who's helping me a lot with a shamanistic approach to healing or holistic healing,
Okay.
which is actually connecting with people and understanding where their authenticity is and bringing that out in them.
So you're looking to heal the human, heal the person, and then give them,
Heal the human and heal the home.
this is too beautiful for words, give them a home that is entirely aligned with their value system in a way
And their
that they didn't
authenticity.
even, and they didn't, in a way that they didn't even know they needed.
Yep.
Oh my God. Well, I am very excited and looking forward to hearing more about that. That is very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple of schools I'm working with at the moment, which is they're teaching me heaps. And,
Cool.
more
And
info on that soon.
How do we keep track of you, Alex? How do we keep track of all of your ventures and your work, your study, how do we keep track? Where do we find you? Give you a call?
Oh, yeah, the call's good. I've got my number on the website actually, so that's not a bad idea.
You don't tend to post much on social media or anything like that, or do you have a newsletter or?
They're all intentional,
Yeah.
but the work just keeps coming, so I just find I just got to do it.
Yes. All right. Well, maybe I'll get you back on in a few months' time, and we can see where you're at
Cool. Really cool chat.
in a year's time or something. And
Yeah.
you
Really
know,
cool chat.
just see where you're going with it, because this is very interesting. It's a very interesting conversation. All right, Alex, final question I ask everybody. What is the one thing you would like the listener to know out of everything that you've learned in your career and life to date?
Connect with people
That doesn't surprise me from our conversation.
and understand their value system and know where to bring it in terms of energy ratings or energy work.
Mhm.
And that is always going to help them progress because they're
Mhm.
coming from a language that they understand.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alex. This has been
Cool.
a truly heartwarming conversation. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
your
Jess.
time. I really hope that everyone out there enjoyed this as much as I did, because I got a lot out of it.
Thanks, Jess. Chat soon.
All right, bye, Alex. That is all for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. There will be another episode in a fortnight, so if you would like to listen into the types of conversations that I have all the time, please subscribe on your chosen platform. Rate the show, leave a comment, whatever you like, share with your friends and family. I'd love for you to spread the word about the Building Slayology Potty. There's a link in the episode description where you can head to a landing page, and there are some show notes there with relevant links and a full transcript of the show as well, and also links to my socials. So if you're not already, I'd love for you to follow along there too, as I share lots of building science and building biology tips. Thanks again. I'll be back in 2 weeks, so until then, happy healthy building.